Some periods in history are kind of like watching paint dry, right? But then there are others, well, they're like explosions of creativity and change. And get this, today we are diving headfirst into one of those explosive periods, the Italian Renaissance.
And I gotta say, it's a thrill to be here.
We're talking a period spanning a few centuries that totally revolutionized art, science, you name it, how people saw themselves, the world, everything got flipped on its head.
It's like someone hit the reset button on, well, on everything. And the coolest part, we're about to uncover those masterpieces, the stories, the masterminds, all of it.
Okay, so before we get lost in all that glorious detail, let's do a quick rewind.
Love it. Back to basics.
What were the big things that made Renaissance art so different? What set it apart?
Oh man, imagine a society so focused on, the divine and the afterlife for centuries, and then bam, they wake up one day and say, hold on, humans are pretty incredible too. That energy, that shift, that's the heart and soul of the Renaissance.
So true.
And that energy, it totally transformed the art scene. It was all about celebrating human potential in the natural world. We're talking realism, perspective, anatomy, the works. It was like art suddenly discovered how to, create a window into actual life.
And those techniques, they still blow my mind. Chiaroscuro, sfumato, I hear those art terms thrown around all the time, but honestly, I kind of just nod along like I know what they mean.
Yeah.
Can you break it down for us?
I feel you. So imagine this. A single candle, right? It's illuminating a face in a pitch black room. That stark contrast, the light, the shadow, boom, chiaroscuro, baby.
Oh, I see it.
It just sucks you right in.
Okay, that's chiaroscuro, got it. But sfumato, what about that one? Isn't that the Mona Lisa thing?
Bingo. Sfumato is all about those soft, almost smoky transitions between colors, like a subtle blend that gives things this crazy depth and mystery. Da Vinci, total master of sfumato, used it to create that infamously knowing smile of the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
That look that follows you, you know the one.
Totally. It's like, is she smiling? Is she plotting world domination? We'll never know.
Yeah.
But isn't it amazing how these techniques, invented centuries ago, still completely mess with our minds?
It's wild, right?
Speaking of mind-blowing, can we talk about the rock stars of the Renaissance? These artists were like the influencers of their time, right? Where do we even begin?
Well, we got to start with the OG Renaissance man himself, Leonardo da Vinci. Talk about a quadruple threat. Painter, sculptor, inventor, scientist. I mean, the guy wrote backwards.
And don't forget, he was sketching helicopters and tanks centuries before anyone even dreamed of building the things. It's like he looked into the future and brought back blueprints.
It's true. And you know what I find really fascinating? Da Vinci's scientific mind, it totally fueled his artwork.
Like how?
Well, take the Mona Lisa, right? All those years Da Vinci spent studying anatomy, dissecting bodies. It's what allowed him to capture those insanely lifelike expressions in his paintings. And let's not forget his masterful use of perspective. It's like he's playing tricks on our eyes, making her seem both close and distant at the same time.
It's like he hacked our brains, but with paint.
Totally. He was light years ahead. And he understood how light and shadow played across the human form like no one else, using chiaroscuro and sfumato to create this
Realism.
on another level. Like you could reach out and touch them.
It makes you wonder what he could have accomplished if he had Google at his fingertips.
Right. Can you imagine?
Okay, so Da Vinci's definitely at the top of the Renaissance leaderboard. Who else earns a spot in your Hall of Fame?
Michelangelo. He's right up there with Da Vinci in the genius department.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking the Sistine Chapel ceiling, the David... I mean, come on.
Talk about a legacy.
Honestly, just thinking about Michelangelo up on that scaffolding, painting those incredible scenes.
For years.
Years. On his back.
It blows my mind.
It's unbelievable. And the story behind the David is almost as amazing as the statue itself, right?
Totally. I mean, other artists, they had taken a look at that block of marble and said, nope, flawed, pass.
They gave up before they even started.
And Michelangelo comes along and sees, I don't know, a masterpiece waiting to happen.
That's the thing about those Renaissance masters. They embrace the challenge, you know? They weren't afraid to push those boundaries, experiment, even mess up a little. And that fearlessness, that's how we got those iconic works of art. But back to Michelangelo for a second.
Okay.
He was a sculptor at heart, right? I mean, that was his thing. But he gave us one of the most famous fresco cycles ever.
Isn't that wild? He even tried to wiggle out of painting the Sistine Chapel ceiling. But Pope Julius II was like, nope, you're the guy.
I love that. The Pope basically said, Michelangelo, get up there and create.
Exactly. And, even though he considered himself a sculptor, even his paintings, they have this sculptural quality to them.
Totally. You can see it in the way he sculpted the human form with paint. Those muscles, the tendons, it's like he understood every single fiber beneath the skin.
And don't forget the sheer scale and ambition of these Renaissance projects. I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking the Sistine Chapel, the Duomo in Florence.
These were architectural marvels.
Pushing the limits of engineering and design, it's insane.
It makes you wonder what they could have accomplished with modern technology.
Can you imagine? Okay, but we can't forget about another incredible artist from this era.
Raphael.
Oh, yes.
Hmm?
Raphael. His work has this entirely different feel. How would you describe it?
Graceful, serene, balanced. Raphael, he was all about harmony in his compositions and capturing those subtle, quiet moments of human emotion.
Totally. And his figures, they just draw you in, right? There's this ethereal beauty, this peacefulness in his paintings that's just captivating.
Like the School of Athens, it's like he created the ultimate philosophical dream team.
Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Euclid, all just hanging out discussing life's big questions. It's amazing. And the way Raphael orchestrated the scene, the composition, the gestures, the expressions, it's like he's giving us a masterclass in visual storytelling.
He really brought those philosophical ideas to life. And speaking of bringing things to life, we've got to give a shout out to the Northern Renaissance.
Oh, for sure. They were rocking it up north, too. It wasn't just an Italian party.
Not at all. What about Ulrich Dürer? He was like the king of detail,
A
right?
master of engraving and printmaking. He was obsessed with detail, and he totally nailed the use of light and shadow.
His self-portraits, they're incredible, so intense, you can practically feel the personality radiating from them. And what about Jan van Eyck? He totally changed the game with oil painting.
Right, Van Eyck was all about those luminous colors and lifelike detail.
His paintings are like windows to another time. You can practically reach out and touch the fabrics, the jewels. It's incredible.
He made oil painting his own. It's mind-blowing when you think about how these northern artists were doing their thing, pushing boundaries with their own techniques and styles, yet at the same time, they were connected by this shared spirit of the Renaissance.
It shows you the power of ideas, right? These concepts were crossing borders, igniting creativity, and it wasn't just the artists driving this creative explosion. Let's talk about the patrons, the people fueling this artistic revolution.
Oh, yeah. They weren't just writing checks. They were shaping tastes, influencing styles, and creating legacies.
The ultimate art influencers.
You've got to hand it to the Medici family. They knew how to use art to make a statement.
Talk about branding geniuses. But it wasn't just about image, right? They seemed to get that art had this power to elevate the human spirit, to make life better.
Totally. They believed in beauty, in knowledge, in pushing the boundaries of what was possible. I mean, they weren't just funding individual works. They were founding academies, building libraries. They created a world where creativity could thrive.
They turned Florence into the ultimate Renaissance hub. It makes you wonder how different the art world would be without their influence. It really makes you think about how art, it's not created in some bubble, right? The Medici, they showed us how much art is a part of, like, everything. Politics, money, even how people relate to each other. But okay, let's zoom out for a minute. Big picture time. We've talked techniques, artists, patrons. What about the lasting impact, the legacy of the Renaissance? How did it change the world?
See, that's what gets me so fired up about this stuff. It wasn't just a moment in art history. It was a total mind shift for humanity. It's like someone dropped a pebble in a pond, and those ripples, they just kept going. It started with, rediscovering classical art and learning and all that, but then it just exploded outwards, changing how we thought about science, philosophy, politics, exploration, the whole game.
So you're saying it wasn't just about the art itself, but this, like, new way of seeing the world, our place in it. Right?
Exactly. That's the beauty of it. The Renaissance, it brought this spirit of humanism to the table. Like, hey, humans are valuable, we have potential. It was all about celebrating curiosity, innovation, saying yes to knowledge. And those values, they stuck around. They became the building blocks for everything that came after. The scientific revolution, the Enlightenment, even how we see the world today.
Whoa. It's like they gave us a new set of lenses to view the world through. And speaking of seeing the world, we can't forget about perspective.
Oh, man. Linear perspective. Talk about a game changer.
It literally changed the way we see it.
100%. I mean, it's hard to wrap our heads around now, but before the Renaissance, artists, they didn't have a, foolproof system to show depth on a flat surface.
Yeah.
Then, boom, linear perspective comes along, and suddenly paintings, they're not just flat surfaces anymore. It's like you can just walk right in. And that, man, it didn't just impact art, architecture, engineering, even map making. Everything changed.
It's like this artistic theory ended up shaping how we understand and move through the world. It's wild. Okay, so as we wrap up our Renaissance deep dive, what are the big takeaways? What can we learn from this period that still matters today?
I think the biggest takeaway, the one we should all write on a sticky note and put on the fridge, is that we are all capable of greatness. The Renaissance, it's like this giant permission slip reminding us that human potential, it's limitless. If we embrace curiosity, creativity, and, hey, aren't afraid to break the mold a little, we can achieve some pretty incredible things.
So the next time you're feeling stuck, like the world's moving too fast, like there's nothing new under the sun.
Remember the Renaissance?
Exactly. Remember those artists who dared to dream big, the patrons who lifted them up, that energy, that drive, that's the spirit that brought us centuries of progress.
So tap into that energy today. Look around. What are the renaissances happening right now? In your city, your field, your own backyard? Where are people shaking things up, changing the game?
What a great point. Keep those creative sparks flying, listeners. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions.